Hello and welcome to another Newhotel Academy webinar. Today's subject is how to manage transactions and accounts receivable. My name is Artur Carneiro, and in the next few minutes we'll speak about transactions, how to search, insert, the deposit option, bulk transactions, insert daily rate transaction, and operations. We'll also speak about current account and control accounts, and finally about invoicing, where we can search for documents, create invoices, create credit notes, invoice pro-forma, and manage account receivable. Transactions are all the value postings done on the various current accounts of the PMS. They can be daily rates, services, deposits, and so on. To find our transactions, we need to go to the Transaction tab on the PMS, and the first option is Search. This option allows us to search for transactions, and we can set transaction date, value date, invoiced account, account type, department, and so on. So we can use these filters on top to look for the transactions on our PMS. Below will be shown the results. As I open, the default filter is transaction date equals today. So this is the work date, and here are all the transactions done for today. I have more pages. As I select here on this arrow, we can see all the transactions posted on October 5th. Also, on the left side, we have a set of options that allow us to insert new transactions, insert a deposit transaction, insert a new rate, and also, if I select a transaction, I can view, modify the transaction, cancel, split, transfer, and if it is a deposit, I can refund. We will see all these options later on. Another way to see the transactions of a specific reservation is if I go to a reservation, go for example here on room planning, select any reservation, for example this one, and I have here the transaction option that will show me all the transactions of this reservation. It's the same window, but the filter is different. The filter is set to reservation number 451. And here are all the transactions already settled and paid by an invoice on this reservation. I see here that the document says that is an invoice, and we don't have any option available for these transactions, because every time a transaction is settled through an invoice, we cannot change, cancel, split, or transfer. But because the reservation is still active, it didn't have its checkout, I can insert a new transaction, and that's what I'm going to do now. I will select the option to insert, and I have here the new transaction window. Value date is the date that I'm going to post this transaction. I'll leave it like this. I can change the folder to master or one of the 5 extra accounts that we have. I will put extra one, that usually we put all the extras there. Account type is the type of account that I can change. I could say that it was a client account if it was created, a company account, a reservation that is created every time a reservation is created, a group account that could be created when we create a group reservation, and it will allow to post everything on a group account, a guest account, a control account that I'll speak about later, an event from our event module, a protocol or owner account. For now, I will leave the account type reservation to this specific reservation. Below, I have three options. I have the option to credit. Credit is when I sell something to a customer, to a guest. It's a credit. A debit when the guest or the client gives money to the hotel, like for example, a deposit. If it's a deposit, I need to mark as a deposit, but I will do an example. And if it's a credit debit is when I sell to the customer and he gives me the money right away. So it's a transaction that will be like a sell. I sell something to the customer and he gives me the money immediately. This will generate a receipt that I can print at this time. For now, for this example, I will post a credit transaction. I will select the department. Let's say that is reception. And select the service. Let's say late checkout, for example. Here, I don't have to fill this. This is empty. I will put here the amount. Let's say it's 1 late checkout and the total. I will charge 100 euros. I could add a description. It doesn't do anything, just adds this tag, this description to the transaction. And I could add a document number, an external document number. It's not mandatory, it's just a reference. If I want to have a tax included or not, change the tax schema, is always default. And if I want to give a discount to this transaction, I could choose by value and put here the value, or by percentage and put here 10%. For this case, let's put like this and blank. Finally, I have the option to keep windows open. When I do OK, this window will be open and allows me to insert a new transaction. Like this, if I do OK, the window will be closed and the transaction is posted here. This is the option to insert transactions. Using this transaction, I can explain these options here below. The modify option allows me to modify the transaction I posted. I just made a mistake. It's not 100 euros. Let's change this to 120. So on the left side, I have the original entry that I cannot change. And on the right side, I have the edit, where I can edit this transaction. So I must give a reason. Let's say it's an error. I can put a comment. This was the description that I put there, and the document number also. Currency department, I could change this, but for this example, I will change the price. And I'll change to 120. I'll do OK. And the system now will show the original transaction here on top, the original transaction. We see this crayon icon. It means that it was edited. So the original transaction with 100 euros. It edited to less 100, so it canceled the original transaction and then create a new one with 120. So 100 minus 100, it adds 0 plus 120, and we have the final modification. We have the option to cancel, and if I cancel, it will cancel this transaction. I will create a new one and cancel it so I can show you. So let's insert a new transaction. Let's say minibar, amount 10, and OK. If I keep window open, when I do OK, the window will stay open, but the transaction was posted. Okay, let's cancel. And we have here the product, in this case, this service. If I want to cancel it, I just need to press on cancel, give a reason, add a comment, and say OK. We see the original transaction and the cancelled one. We notice here this icon, this forbidden icon, means that these were cancelled. We have here also the option to split, and split allows me to split a specific transaction into two other transactions. For example, now I will create here an example. So let's do reception. Let's put the transfer, for example, and say that this transfer is 50 euros. And this is posted on this reservation, but is to split and then transfer to the other reservation. So let's say OK. Here is a transaction. I have the option now to split. Let's split. It asks me if I want to split by value or percentage. Let's say it's splitting by value. Let's keep on the extra one folder. Also a cancellation error. Also a cancellation reason, because every time I edit or split a transaction, it will cancel, and so the system will ask me for the cancellation reason. I could put some comments here. And here on the description, I will say the amount. I can double click on the amount 1 and say it's not 50, but it's 25. And the system, it will put the rest here. If I put here, imagine 30, it would split 30-20. But in this case, let's put 25, 25, OK. So this transfer that was initially 50 was cancelled with minus 50 and then created two new transactions, 25 and 25. Let's select this one and I will use it to explain transfer. This allows me to transfer transactions from one account to the other. I will transfer to the folder extra one of an account type. I can transfer to a client, a company, a group, a control, a current account, it doesn't matter. I just need to select the account type and then choose the correct reservation. Let's put on this reservation 524, give the cancellation reason and do OK. As you can see here, we have the transfer transaction. It informs me here on top on transferred the number where it was transferred, and it's cancelled here. So here on the transaction window or directly on the reservation, I can do all these options: insert, modify, cancel, split, and transfer. Now let's talk about the deposit option. We find it here, and the deposit option inserts a debit transaction into a current account of a reservation in order to be invoiced after. In this example, I will post a deposit through this option, and for that I need to choose the value date, choose the folder, choose the account type. I will go with reservation. I will choose the reservation, this one. Because I chose here, these options are locked and the system already knows that it is a deposit. I just need to give the correct department, the type, if it's a payment, a cash advance, a devolution, an internal cashier settlement. Let's put a cash advance. The payment type, let's say is, for example, cash, and the amount of the deposit. It asks me for the information to be printed on the receipt. I say OK, and this receipt will be printed, and here it is, the receipt with 200 euros. Now, under this reservation, this 524, if I invoice, and it will discount the deposit that I've made. Let's take a look. Here is the reservation. Let's look at the current account. This is the deposit. As we can see, it has the mark here on deposit with 200 euros in value. Let's invoice. We have here the deposit, and if I create the invoice, and let's see how it was posted, and here it is, the invoice that has a total of 1,292 euros, but we have here this deposit of 200 that adds 1,092 euros. So the option deposit allows us to insert directly into a reservations current account a debit transaction to settle cash advance, for example. We have other options to insert a deposit that is under room planning directly into a reservation. If I, for example, right click, I have here the option deposit, and it's the same window as we saw before, that is locked with the type of transaction, and now we can add the deposit. Another feature here on transactions is the bulk. The bulk allows us to insert several transactions into a single or several reservations at the same time. This is quite useful because it allows us to save time inserting all the transactions we want into specific reservations. Let me give you an example. To do that, we need first to choose which are the services to be inserted into the reservations. So let's say we have this one that costs 10. We have this one that costs 20, and this one that costs 25. One of each service into some reservations. This is the first half. We have the option also to save this transaction. Imagine that we have this done a lot all the time, and we can have the option to save this as a template. I do OK, and the next time I wish to use it, I just need to load and use the template I've just created. Now let's choose which are the reservations that we will insert these transactions, these services. So below I choose reservations. I have all the filters on top. By default has all the reservations in check-in. I could change this to reserve, no show, to a number, to creation date, arrival date, one usual is group. I could use a specific group and use it to insert it, but the procedure is this one. I can select one or several reservations like this. I keep pressed the control button and I choose the reservations I want. After I selected all, I just select and I have on top the services to be posted and on which reservations will be added. When I'm satisfied, I just need to process. So we have here the mark succeeded. It means that on these reservations, these 3 services, these 3 transactions were posted. Let's take a look on 544, for example. Let's look here on the reservations. Reservation 544. Let's filter. Let's look under transactions. And we have the 3 postings done. The bulk allows us to insert several services or transactions into one or several reservations all at the same time. Another option we have under transactions is the daily rate. The daily rate allows us to insert a daily rate into a specific reservation. This is done automatically, so the calculation is done by the system and is as it follows. We select the daily rate, this window will appear, we choose the value date, the folder should be master because it's a daily, we choose the reservation. Let's look at reservations that are under check-in, but the departure date is bigger than today, for example. Let's choose this one. And I choose the number of days, the number of dailies I wish to charge into the current account, and calculate. The system will post 2 daily rates more to the current account of this reservation. If I do OK, it just charged with 2 more daily rates into this account. For example, to settle the account or other arrangement you made with the customer. This is useful to insert daily rates into reservations. Another option to insert daily rates is directly into a reservation. Let's go, for example, here, room planning. Let's edit this one. And under incidental charges, we can add here another daily rate. We just need to choose how many days, for example. We can mark it if it's a daily or not. Choose the meal plan, add the department, add the service, and then add the value. It's exactly the same thing. And now, at the end, we just need to execute, and it will be added these 3 more daily rates. Under transactions, we also have the current account and control account. Current account is where we can find the current account of all reservations, of companies, of groups, of events, or owner, and so on. Here is where we can see all the transactions that are not settled into each current account. This is the main difference between current account and transactions. Is that under transactions, we'll see all the services that has been through any reservation at a given time. Under current control, we only see what's left to be settled. Let me show you an example. Let's choose here a reservation. Here I have the current account of reservation 423 and it's empty. If I press refresh, nothing is inside. But if I go to transactions of the same reservation, we see all the transactions that have been made in this reservation. And we see here all the transactions. This is the payment and this is the invoice. This is the document that settled the current account. This is why the current account is empty. If there was something left to settle, it will be shown here. Under current account, we also have the same options to insert, new rate, to search, to cancel, to modify, to split, transfer, and refund. We have more options inside current account that we don't have on the transactions. We have the ability to invoice, so the system will invoice everything that is inside the current account. Invoice in advance, invoice and percent. We have the option to add minibar services. This is the services that are set as minibar. Let me insert a transaction. The same way as under transactions, here I have the option to immediately invoice. Okay, this is where I can create invoices directly into current accounts. So the options I have is all that we have under transactions, and we have also the option to make invoices directly in the current account. We have here control accounts. Control account is when we need to invoice something, but we don't have a reservation associated with that something. For example, I wish to charge a breakfast to someone that doesn't have a reservation in my hotel. So for that, I can create a control account, and we have some already created. We have some like this, non-guest, for example. To create a control account, I just need to insert, give a name, we can fill these fields here, but it's not mandatory. I just need to do OK, and the account is created. We have here the control account. If now I wish to charge someone that is not a guest in my hotel, for example, or to charge a party, or to charge another service, I just need to go to current account, select the account type, not reservation, but control account, choose that account, let's choose the new one, and now I can insert services inside. So this is the same. We're going to insert at credit, choose department, for example, choose the quantity, choose the amount, do OK, and now I have one transaction inserted into the current account that I can invoice. So the control account allows me to create accounts that I can manage and see the balance and see what's been posted. Also, I have the control to check balance in Night Auditor. This means that if this account has unpaid balance, it will not be able to do the Night Auditor. I can settle the credit, can be unlimited or with a value, saying that in master I can only put 100 euros in master or another account, and I can make transfers between accounts. This allows me to invoice goods or services, to customers that doesn't have a reservation created. The search option that is inside invoicing under transactions allows us to search for documents that were created in the PMS. For that, I have a set of filters on top that allows me to look by issue date, cancellation date, occupancy of the reservation, by company, contract, cancellation reason, and so on. For example, if I press on reset, it will show me all the documents that were created in the system. Let's look for a document that was created today. For that, issue equals work date. Press filter, and it will show all the documents that were created today. If you look at the right side, all these options are grayed out. I cannot select them. But if I select this invoice, for example, now I have options that I can view the document. So these are the details. Cancel. In some countries, it's possible to cancel invoices. Allows me to create a credit or a debit note. Allows me to see the transactions. Allows me to settle. Below, the print option allows me to create a copy of the reservation. This means that I can store all invoices in the system, and when I need it, I can just ask to print a copy or the original. This is the original, and I also have the option to print a copy. And it says duplicate. I also have the option to send if the email is set up on the system. Allows me to send by email and export through an XML file. As I stated before, here is where I can create a credit note to void a specific invoice. So let's create a credit note to this invoice. For that, I need to first select the invoice, choose the option credit note. The holder must be like the original document that I cannot change. The amount, this is the total amount of the invoice, and the payment method also needs to be equal to the invoice, so I cannot change unless I delete and insert a new one. But usually the payment method is the same as it was paid. We have more options. Here on the right side, we have open or unlock accounts and reinsert invoice transactions. And the reason. We also need to give a reason to all credit notes. This is because it's a cancellation. The open or unlock accounts. So every time a reservation does checkout, the current account is locked to prevent other transactions being posted on that current account. This option allows me to open or unlock that account. And this is useful for reinserting invoice transactions to re-invoice that specific reservation. Imagine that you made a mistake when creating the invoice and the holder was the company and not the guest's name. And we need to invoice the reservation. So we choose the reinsert invoice transactions and open or unlock accounts. This way, all the transactions from the invoice will be posted into the reservation's current account. And for that, I just need to issue and print, and the credit note will be created. And here it is, credit note number, and with the taxes and everything. If I try to do a credit note into this invoice, I cannot because it's already been done. Is it possible also to make partial credit notes into invoices. So I have here the total of the credit note, but if I go here under transactions, I can delete the transactions I don't need. So imagine that I need to credit only this first lodging. I can select all of the other transactions and I will create a credit note with only one daily. Informs me that the current account is closed or locked, so I need to open or unlock accounts and then do this again, like this. Open or unlock account, select the payment method, and issue, and I create a partial credit note from an invoice. Just that lodging service. So here is where we can search for documents like credit notes, receipts, invoices, and create the credit notes. Here we also have the invoice ticket option. This new invoice ticket option allows us to create one invoice for several reservations at the same time. To do that, we need to choose which reservations we need to invoice. So let's select this one with the control key, this one and this one. Select. The reservations will be put here on the bottom half of the screen, and then I can invoice. I will choose invoice in advance to calculate future transactions. And if I choose invoice, I just need to put the payment type. Let's choose credit card. Let's say OK, and print this invoice. And the three reservations were invoiced in the same document. This is quite useful, for example, to invoice groups or several reservations that are paid by the same person. Here we have the option to create credit notes, but this is different from the one that I showed you prior. This allows us to create a credit note without invoice associated to it. For example, to settle an account with a travel agency or to pay a rappel. For create a credit note like this one, we need to choose a company or a guest. Let's choose this one, for example. Let's put a fiscal number. We choose the transactions to give credit. Let's choose, for example, a control account. We can choose any account we wish. The service to give the credit. Let's choose this. And the total value. We do OK. We give a reason here. We choose the payment. Let's say it's in cash, doesn't matter. And we print this credit note. This is independent from the invoices. The invoice pro-forma option allows us to create an invoice on a reservation, but this invoice does not have any fiscal value. It's useful to use as a budget, for example. For that, we need to choose any reservation, select, and then invoice pro-forma. The transactions will be shown here. We invoice pro-forma. We choose the holder. By default, chooses the reservation holder. Choose a fiscal number and print the invoice. So this is a good way to have an invoice, but it does not have any physical value. It warns here this document is not an invoice, and it can be stored and looked for here on search, and you can have a tracking of all your budgets. It's one way to use this pro-forma invoice. Finally, we have the account receivable. The account receivable is where all your credit invoices will be stored, and where you can see the total issue, the total settle, and the balance. In order to create a credit invoice, we need to, as always, let's invoice any reservation. We can use this one. Let's invoice in advance, so it can generate future transactions. We choose invoice. We put the holder. It's the same as a reservation. We can enter the fiscal number, for example, and instead of doing payments and select the payment method, we choose the account transfer. This allows me to transfer to an existing account that is already created, and we can put here, for example, this one, CML. By default has 30 days to pay. It puts here the date, and now I just need to print an invoice. It's exactly the same, but it says account transfer. We can go to accounts receivable, open the CML account. Here is my invoice. I see that total issue is 180 and the balance is 145. Once I receive the payment of this invoice, I just need to settle it, do OK, and the balance now is 0. This account has been settled. All credit invoices will be posted here under each account. So to settle them, you just need to open the account and then select the invoices that are already paid. At the end, do OK. And we have the total issue, the total settled, and the balance at the moment. I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and if you have any questions or doubts, or even suggestions for future webinars, please send us an email to academy@newhotel.com. Hope to see you soon. Wish you all the best and see you soon.